Hey everybody. So last time I got the filters working, which was pretty straightforward. It's pretty nice. And so this time more of a proof of concept situation. Um, because I didn't really understand exactly how the shadows worked and if they worked and why they work and all that stuff. So I wanted to um, like just kind of prove that they work because shadows are a little different than everything else every that we've done so far, because so far all the code that I've written is very siloed, right? Like light stuff is just light stuff, mesh stuff is just mesh stuff, scene stuff is just scene stuff, so on and so forth. But this actually goes across, like the renderer and meshes can give and receive light and shadows, and lights can project shadows or not project shadows. So I just wanted to create a proof of concept that would show that they work, but not necessarily build it all out with interfaces and all that stuff. So that's what I did, and this is the the example, and it's pretty cool. So basically, I have a light um, mesh that is just basically just a mesh that is there to represent a light, and a floor mesh and a screen mesh. And the screen mesh is sitting at zero point 0.5, so that's this little guy right there. Um, Now the floor mesh is a Fong, um, and the screen mesh is a basic. So so that I could show the color and control the color. And then the Fong is white. Um, So if I take the basic, for example, and right now it's sitting at zero point 0.5, and I make that zero point 0.7, I believe the shadow will get bigger. Nope, I don't know, that's weird. 0.2. So the shadow got smaller. 0.3, 0.4, zero point 0.5, zero point 0.6, and we lose the shadow. I don't really understand that, but I'm going to make that 0.5. Um, So that would be interesting to think about. So if I make this x 0.5, you see that it all goes off to the right and the shadow goes off to the right. And then if I make this like 0.3, it's not as much. And 0.2 or 0.1, it's not as much. And then 0, it's straight on. So that's all good, and I think the proof of concept is a success. Just if you're curious, for the 3JS side of things, the things that I had to do to make this sort of look good was, one, I had to make a couple changes to the camera. I had to lift it up zero point 0.5, because if it's 0, you can't see anything. Um, and so if the camera's sitting at zero point 0.5, you can see stuff. And I guess it's because the mesh is going straight through the camera in that situation. And it's the Z position is normally at 5 by default. Yeah, I could change it to 1. And if I change it to the default 5, you can kind of barely see what's going on. It's really cool though. But so I would definitely call this a screaming success on the understanding 3GS, although I don't understand why, if it gets a little closer, you lose the shadow altogether. But, you know, definitely don't understand everything, but I definitely understand things a lot better. Um, so the code part of this, okay, I forgot to do the timer again. We're 4 minutes and 10 seconds in, though. So I'm going to come over here. All of the code for the proof of concept is in the 3JS service. So basically, I just hacked this thing. Good old-fashioned hacking. Um, so when we add a light, I just made all lights. Oh, there's one other thing to show over here. So I do have one light sitting at 1, at the Y position of 1. So anyway, so that light, now all lights get a cast shadow equals true. Clearly, that is not how we want it to work. We don't want to just automatically make all lights cast a shadow. Um, but right now, this proof of concept, it's casting a shadow. So basically, the next step would be to go into the interfaces and add a cast shadow, to the interfaces and then update everything so that there's a checkbox for casting shadows. And I think the cast shadow probably should be defaulted to false. But that'll be easy to change if I change my mind. And then in our meshes, I made where all meshes cast shadows and receive shadows. So, and what's wild about this, it really blows my mind, is that it doesn't matter, even if, like, let's say I take the screen mesh and I turn it into a let's see, just a normal, it still casts the shadow. So everything respects shadow casting. Now, when you turn it into a Phong, that's actually very interesting. Okay, since the Phong is straight on, we can't see it. So I think if I take my camera and I move it up to 0.7, yeah. So now you can see that it's just white at the top and then the sides are black. So that's how that works. But I wonder if that is why it wouldn't cast the shadow once, maybe because the camera was below that. I don't know. But anyways, but right now all meshes can cast shadow and receive shadows. So I need to update the interface so that casting shadows and receiving shadows is settable for both of those. And then in the renderer, you have to enable that. And I don't think it really is enough to build a whole tab just for renderer. It seems like I could slide that in on this scene. Like just put a label on that says background color, and then it says renderer shadow map enabled. And that seems like enabled should be set to true, default to true, but I think I'll default it to false. No, I'll probably default it to true. Who knows? I'll make that decision at the time. So what would be really cool right now is if I could animate, but it's going to animate everything, and I don't know what that's going to look like. And I do want to get a screen cap. Actually, I'll just make a screen cap right now of this for the. Oh no, I can't do that. Unfortunately, the snipping tool is used for both recording and screen capping, and I don't know what happens. This video may not even save now. But anyways, yeah, I don't want to animate both because it animates both. It'd be nice if I could just say this one mesh is an animation, but don't animate this mesh, which should be pretty simple. But that would be cool, and because I think what we'd see is this thing changing as this thing rotated around and different parts of this lighten up, and I think that would be really, really cool. But that is something to work on soon. Yeah, I think that at this point, the next step is to actually, formalize this. So create a new renderer interface that basically has one thing, whether shadows are enabled or not, and then add two things to the mesh interface to say whether it can accept and or receive shadows, and then in the lights add one more thing to see whether it casts shadows or not. But anyways, yeah, I think this is super duper cool, and happy coding. Bye.